First you had Chaos Dragons, then you had Chaos Dragon Swarms, and now you have an entirely different build that works like crazy compared to the rest of the engines that I ran in the past. Anyways, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to showcase a brand new deck profile for you all, and this one is going to be on Chaos Dragons, but with a twist. I call this deck Chaos Dragon Abyss, and what the deck's name implies, it's a Chaos Dragon deck, but it relies entirely on a different engine to make the deck flow. I run Burning Abyss with it, and a lot of people think, wait a minute, is it possible to run Burning Abyss with Chaos Dragons? It actually is possible. It's been done in the past, especially with Dante being the first part of the engine to come out, and before Tour Guide even got hit, then drastically getting new support, and of course getting a fusion, and then of course getting a really powerful Xyz, which could be abused in pretty much any deck that involves rank 6s, and then just milling stuff to the graveyard, since a lot of graveyard effects go off and benefit the deck overall. Whether it's Phantom Knights, or just PK Fire, or running Speedroids with Burning Abyss. Beatrice was ridiculous in the deck. But in this engine, a lot of people would think, wait, is it possible to do this? Yeah, it is. It benefits Lightpulsar, it benefits the dragons, it benefits you overall if you want to feed your graveyard and get more chaos monsters, and then at the same time, just get a Dante or two on board and just go to town on your opponent's life points. But nonetheless, I like this deck. It's one of these new engines that I'll try out in the future. Hopefully if they don't hit Burning Abyss too hard in the future. We'll see. But I love this build overall. Anyway, so I'm going to show you all the deck, explain a couple of my tech choices, and without further ado, here is Chaos Dragon Abyss. To start off, of course, we've got 2 Lightpulsar Dragons and 2 Darkflare Dragons. I'm trying something new with a ratio of 2 and 2, because I wanted to add some other stuff to make the deck flow. That's the only reason. A lot of people can argue that 3 Lightpulsars are better than running 2 of these and running 2 Darkflares, but you need to have other options to fall back on, besides just relying on Red Eyes all the time to get your synergy flowing. So if you want another option to fall back on in the graveyard, and the second Darkflare is an Allure of Darkness target, you can't really go wrong with having a Darkflare Dragon in the graveyard, since you run 2 of these anyway. 1 Red Eyes, the best dragon in the deck, no explanation there. 1 Darkflare as your alternative, and of course it's pretty easy to get out depending on whether you just get exactly 3 dark monsters on that exact turn. You can't really go wrong with it. And it's a good Allure of Darkness target too, since you don't rely on it that much, but it's good to have, especially as another spammer. 1 Eclipse Wyvern to get out your dragon, 7 or higher. It's self-explanatory. A majority of the time you're going to be using it on Red Eyes anyway. And of course, 1 Divine Dragon Apocralyph, because it complements well with the Burning Abyss engine, and it works well with recycling back your Red Eyes or any dragon that you want. What more can you ask for? It's really good. Now for the Chaos monsters, it's pretty standard. 1 BLS, and of course the 2 Chaos Sorcerers. This ratio is really good. Although you can't really go wrong with adding a 3rd Chaos Sorcerer, I like running 2 because you don't rely on it that much as BLS, because BLS is a beater. And you're going to be usually using these just to banish stuff that's face up on your opponent's side, and then going into rank 6s anyway, so yeah. But other than that, they're good floaters to have, even though you're going to be relying on him more often than not. And now for the Burning Abyss engine. This is something crazy that I came up with. We got 1 Tour Guide of the Underworld, basically to make the synergy flow with getting out a first turn Dante or whatnot. You can't really go wrong with Tour Guide. Usually if you get this off, hands down, you're guaranteed to get mill power, since you do rely on Dante a lot with this deck. 3 Scarm to fetch out your Tour Guide, fetch out your Burning Abyss, any of your Burning Abyss except for Scarm when it goes to the graveyard. It's really, really good. But nonetheless, 3 Scarm is the better option to go for. Next we got 1 Sir, because unfortunately it's at 1, but it still flows well with the deck. 1 Graff, because it's at 1, and it actually benefits you in getting more spamming power with Burning Abyss, just as long as you control Burning Abyss beforehand before you summon anything else, of course. 2 Farfa. I was contemplating on running 3, but I wanted to add some other Burning Abyss names just to kind of add more synergy to special summoning other Burning Abyss cards. And sure enough, it works out well at 2. Who knows, in the future, we'll see about adding the 3rd. 1 Rubic, because I do Synchro summon with Burning Abyss in this deck. It's easy to make. And of course, you can use it as a bluff, since it does have really high-powered defense. 1 Alec to negate face-up monster effects on your opponent's side. 1 Barbar to burn for 300 points of damage, depending on the Burning Abyss monsters that you banish, of course. 1 Calcab to bounce back their set spell or trap card. And, of course, 1 Libic, because summoning Burning Abyss monsters from your hand is pretty good, especially since you're going to be sending them to the graveyard anyway in order for them to work. You can't really go wrong with this engine. So anyway, now onto the Lightsworn Engine, because it complements the deck well, too. Next we got 3 Lumina, self-explanatory for the first turn Michael play, and it's also another option to get Dante out too, since you only rely on 2 level 3 monsters just to make a generic rank 3. Next we got 3 Raiden, in my opinion the best Lightsworn to use to mill off with. And, of course, 2 Lyla. Self-explanatory. It's an MST with legs, so what more can you ask for with just having this, popping a spell or trap card, and then just milling off of it, just to benefit your graveyard. That's it for the monsters. Now onto the spells. We've got 3 Allure of Darkness. Since you do run a high amount of dark monsters than light monsters, safe to say the synergy is going to flow well with this deck, and you are going to, guaranteed, you're going to be getting a lot of plays going, since you do have enough draw power and mill power for this deck. You can't really go wrong with running through your Allure of Darkness in this deck. 2 charge of the Light Brigade to recruit whatever Lightsworns you want, and then just send them off with Lightpulsar via anything else, Chaos-based, and then just have your Burning Abyss effects go off after you do your Chaos plays. And of course, 3 Solar Recharge for more draw power and more mill power. It's a no-brainer to run 3 Solar Recharges, since it does benefit the deck. That's it for the main deck. Now on to the extra deck. The extra deck is crazy. Next, to start off, we've got, of course, the main man himself, 3 Dante. You're going to be relying on him and Lightpulsar a lot just to win your duels. Normally, you would get a bunch of Burning Abyss monsters back from your graveyard straight to your hand anyway, since he dies from his from being destroyed by battle or by card effects or whatnot. But usually when he gets sent to the graveyard, hands down, he's going to benefit you in the long run. But his defense is pretty good too. And considering the fact that you don't really need to use the other Burning Abyss monsters that I will show you in a sec, guaranteed you're going to be going to town on your opponent's life points and just shaving like 25 and 25 off of their score, and then just beating their face in with fast-paced board presence, especially with him on the field. Usually you will get 2 of these out and think, wow, this is ludicrous. I didn't know this was possible. But it can be done, especially with Dante in this deck. Next we got 1 Beatrice. I can't say how important this card is in the deck, especially how well it flows with not just Dante in general, but with the deck overall. You can easily get Eclipse Wyvern with this. You can use this to use other Burning Abyss abilities, even though you can't use the ability on the turn that you used it, just to dump a Burning Abyss and then summon it and overlay it onto Dante, of course. But overall, there are 2 ways to skin a cat with this card. But in many cases, since you can easily summon it by just overlaying 2 level 6s to form this, hands down, you're going to be getting a powerhouse. And speaking of powerhouse, we run 1 Dante, the Pilgrim of the Burning Abyss. Basically, what it does, it's kind of a Dark Destroyer for the deck. And also, when it dies, you can send a card from your opponent's hand to the graveyard at random. And the cool thing is, you can dump a Burning Abyss monster from your hand, and then you get to draw a card. It can work on your turn, or it can work on your opponent's turn. In my opinion, it's a really good card. And it's a beater, so what more can you ask for? So basically, when Beatrice dies by your opponent's card effect or by battle, you have this, or if you have one Virgil. Basically to dump a Burning Abyss monster and then shuffle a card on their field straight to the deck. Hands down, this engine works like crazy with the build. Now on to the rest of the build. We're going to start with the Synchros, which of course are one Black Rose to nuke the field. Hands down, it really works well with Lightpulsar and getting more synergy off of Red Eyes and then spamming more dragons afterwards. And then dumping with Lightpulsar from the graveyard just to summon it from the graveyard anyway, since you dump a Light in the Dark to summon it. Hands down, Black Rose is really good, especially when it combos off well with Lightpulsar. And of course, one Michael, because it's easy to make with a deck. And next we make way for one Scrap Dragon, because it works well with Lightpulsar as well, and it can get rid of any unsavory cards that can put a damper on your strategies. And it's a beater too, and it's a dragon, so you can bring it back with Red Eyes. And of course, one of the MVPs for the deck, one Scarlight. It's a really good card. Works well against pendulums, works well against special decks that special summon a lot, and burn damage is your best friend in this deck, especially with this card. I'm mad it doesn't work with Lightpulsar, otherwise it would be even more sweeter to keep in this deck. Even though you can't really go wrong with getting it back with Lightpulsar anyway, especially if Lightpulsar dies and this becomes a target and then you summon it from the graveyard anyway, you have other options to fall back on, and this is one of them. Since he's dark, of course, and he's higher than 5. And now for the rest of the extra deck, we got the XCs, one F-Zero, because you can easily make it with 2 of the same ranks of a certain rank. If it's 2 4s, guess what? You can make this. If it's 2 3s, you can make this. But usually you're going to be using it on the Dantes just to build a wall. And it's pretty good nonetheless. I may get that Phantom Knight Swordbreaker card in the future, but until then we'll see. And now we got the rank 4s, which are, of course, one Queen Dragoon de Gen for Lightpulsar, and for comboing off well with Black Rose after you get Queen Dragoon. One Castell, your basic rank 4, and, of course, another basic rank 4, 101. And to end the Xyz lineup and the deck overall, 1F7. Recycle back whatever monsters you want. You pretty much get more than what you bargained for with this card. It works really well with the deck, and it's easy to make too, since you have the resources to use it. So, that's it for the deck, guys. Hope you all enjoyed this little deck profile that I put together. Please leave a like and favorite if you enjoyed. If you have any suggestions, leave them. I'm open to them. Because this deck, man, let me tell you, this deck is crazy. I may build a Phantom Knight version of this in the future, but until I get that engine squared away, that's for another time. But this build is awesome. It works just as well as anything else. Anyways, hit me up in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, this is Smash Adams, signing out.